Capri Sun is the unofficial sponsor of our everyday moments. Like your first three-pointer, getting a high score in your favorite video game, riding your bike to a friend's house, landing a new trick at the skate park. For every moment, we're in charge. Capri Sun. It's gonna be epic.
This episode is brought to you by Nerds Candy, calling all the gaming, tech-savvy nerds out there. The team carriers and keyboard warriors, the achievement hunters and part-time LARPers, the tech wizards and boss destroyers. When nerds come together, we live louder, leveling up in our own way. So let's raise our nerds in unison. The sweet, tangy, crunchy candy that's perfect for sharing. Nerds, shake things up. Shop now at nerdscandy.com.
Create more possibilities for your family. Fidelity is here to help when it comes to money decisions like everyday spending, buying a home, and building emergency savings. Para tu familia, siempre más. Get started at fidelity.com/más.
I was going to ask you guys, have you watched the Beckham documentary on Netflix?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What do you think?
I loved it.
I liked it.
I did too.
Yeah. Much more than I was expecting to.
Other than the fact that Glenn Hoddle looks like a monster.
Is Glenn Hoddle really a monster, or they just needed a victim?
Well, I think the way that Glenn Hoddle probably approached the whole thing wasn't in the best way possible, because he just kind of threw someone.
He did throw him under the bus in those interviews.
He did.
Yeah, he really does. Yeah.
Can't deny that.
He absolutely does. And he did it back then as well in 98. And it's kind of like what Mourinho would do, or what Ten Hag has been doing. Coaches do it, right? But
yeah.
Glenn Hoddle was the nicest guy I've ever met when I did TV with him. So I don't know what he's like, because I don't know him.
One thing that I thought that they just glossed over and didn't even mention was 2002 World Cup when he scored the penalty against Argentina. That was coming full circle, the redemption. And yeah, they showed it in about a 2-second flash, but they didn't talk about it at all. And I thought that was such a huge moment in his career. I remember watching it live and I was just like, this is just such an amazing story.
I'm with you on that, Simon. I thought they were surprisingly skimmed on that.
Yeah, he can close the book on that now. Everyone loves him again, and it's against the same country. Like, you can't write that script, and they just left it out.
Which was weird. Like the Rebecca Lou stuff, I wasn't surprised got left out, because obviously, like, he's had some pretty strong control over it. But that was weird. You thought that would be a good thing. I don't know if it's a footage issue or what.
I think it's coming back to bite them now, isn't it? Because now there's stories coming out about it, and she's talking again. Maybe they should have just left it out 100% rather than gloss over that.
You can't. It was like the thing that made, like, it's like the huge, like the biggest story of the Beckhams was that, you know? But she also understands that he mentions in the beginning that he didn't really have a childhood. He never went to a nightclub. He never did anything because football was his life. And I feel like she almost gave him his childhood despite being married to him, you know? I feel like she loves him like a mother would love a kid. It doesn't seem to be like it's an unconditional love rather than a normal relationship in which you have boundaries and limits, I guess. She's a very good woman by the sounds of it, you know?
I really enjoyed hearing from her in that documentary.
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting hearing from her. And I thought, like, some of that stuff that got talked about was exactly the stuff that I'm always trying to, like, explain to people doesn't get considered when we talk about transfers, is that players do actually have lives away from the football pitch.
Yeah.
Like, and we can all sort of say, oh yeah, but how can you turn down this or that? Actually, it might genuinely be that their family life matters to them more, and that's okay, because they're still people. You know, his case is obviously extreme, but I think that sort of concept applies to footballers everywhere, and people never want to acknowledge it.
Like Kieran Trippier, when he moved to Newcastle, everyone started like screaming at him because they were like, oh, you left, you know, it's because of the money of Newcastle. And his wife was like, I genuinely wanted to go back home. Like I wanted to be in England. And so it was like any move that came, but it's like that gets over, like his wife mattered at the time to Trippier. And I just feel like sometimes people don't really take that into consideration. Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you.
And like, you know, with Victoria and David, you can look at them and go, well, you know, to some extent, you've chosen this celebrity and wealth lifestyle. You've made your bed, lie in it. But when you see, like, when they're in Spain, the scenes with them, like, carrying the kids to the car and stuff, I thought, like, I mean, actually, that's a 5-year-old. Like, you know what? Like, and as a parent, damn right, you'd want to be like, no, this isn't acceptable. Like, I want to go anywhere this doesn't happen because that's my child. Like, it's really like understandable.
Also, the level of hate, by the way, it was insane. Like, I get really upset when someone writes something on Twitter and I'm just like, can you imagine if I had like the whole country like writing headlines? And thank God there was no social media back then. That was like, was that back in, I don't know, 98? Probably not.
Yeah, that was really interesting because, of course, like we were more like university age when that was happening. And like that didn't really register quite how extreme it was to me at the time.
No, we were GCSE
in a way that
age.
I think it's different seeing as an adult. Yeah, you're right. Even younger, weren't we? Yeah.
Not just maybe like, final year of GCSE. Yeah.
I remember the, what do you call it? The mannequin or whatever at West Ham, hanging him and that kind of stuff.
Gosh, that's horrible.
I remember just being sickened by it.
I don't remember much of that period, to be honest with you.
It's crazy. Like, and that pub owner who's just like, I don't think it's a big deal. And you're like, really? Like, that's a person. Like,
but they don't see celebrities
as people,
as real people, They other them, they do that to celebrities. They do that to people they don't know or care about, and it's just the hypocrisy of it's easy to say the whole country, but all those fans, because, like I said, 4 years later, he comes back and he's the hero. And they all would have been celebrating.
Of course.
Celebrating the player that they all were yelling about killing.
Also, I didn't know that about Madrid when he was dropped and how well he continued to train regardless. I thought that was really impressive.
Yeah. The Capello stuff was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I liked how Capello kind of caved into the playing group and then tried to keep him from going to LA.
Yeah. I mean, Capello
wanted to keep him at the club.
Capello is...
I have such mixed feelings with Capello because I think he's like not a particularly pleasant man, but sometimes I find him very compelling.
Capello is a product of hardcore, like an almost borderline abusive father. So he almost lacks a little bit of empathy, and it's like he has that kind of, I mean, his kids always complained about him, like in all those interviews when they used to say he was really hard, but then he really loves his wife. So I feel like he straddles the line between humanity and him. Like he doesn't really, like, he's just tries to be a good guy, but
I think there's a model of Italian dad that I recognize in that. Like not necessarily my dad actually, but like I've seen other Italian dads, and a really good friend here, Lorenzo, and her dad is quite like that, where it's like they can seem almost like emotionless in their cruelty sometimes. Yeah. You're like, how can you not like be more human than this?
Yeah.
He's the epitome of that real hard ass, if you cross me once in your life, you're dead to me. That's what he did to him.
Yeah.
But Beckham just by being quiet and working hard on the sidelines, like he proved himself. And I love that story. That was a cool story.
Turn around.
But Beckham could deal with it because look at his life. His father was pretty hard on him, right? And then he had Alex Ferguson, who was also...
That's right.
So he's had 3 men in his life who've just been complete hard asses, whereas he's gone completely the other way with his kids. He's like so soft and so like loving. And so even though every example that he's had of a man in his life has been so difficult,
That is so true because, you become pretty much how you were parented.
You'd think.
Probably 90% of people, do so. And I know it with myself, right? I say the things my father said to me or even that my mother said to me. And I say it and I'm catching myself as I'm saying it to my kids or yelling it to my kids, in terms of disciplining and that kind of thing. And then you think afterwards, like, oh, fucking hell, I swore I would never do this kind of stuff or say this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's very subconscious. And like you said, Beckham is completely the opposite of that.
Yeah.
How has he managed to do that? Yeah, it's a very rare person, I think.
Although you say that, but right at the end when he was playing football with them, like you could see he was like wanting to be like his dad and be mean about like the football, be like, you're not good enough.
Yeah, but he did it
in a sort of loving way, but...
Yeah, exactly. I think it was banter, really. And it's good that he has that with his kids. I like that.
Yeah. I think he leans a lot as well into what Victoria's like. And Victoria seems very soft with her kids, right?
Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by AT&T Fiber with Wi-Fi. Whether you're into watching horror movies from your basement, watching sports from your backyard, or watching trashy reality shows from inside your car that's parked all the way in the driveway so no one in your family judges you, AT&T Fiber with Wi-Fi is the best way to watch whatever you want from wherever you are.
Get AT&T Fiber with All-Fi and add some Wi-Fi square footage to your house. Limited availability in select areas. Go to att.com/hypergig to check eligibility. Coverage requires extenders at additional charge.
Sergeant and Mrs. Smith, you're going to love this house.
Is that a tub in the kitchen?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
Like, she's always so hands-on. She didn't have maids and nannies, and she was just pretty much like a woman raising her kids on her own. It was really impressive for a woman that had all that, like fame and stuff. And so, and maybe because she's soft, he sort of leaned on that. Whereas I also loved his mum. She came across as, do you remember when she talks about Glenn Hoddle's the only one that she seems to have like a thing against, obviously. And she was really upset by that whole thing, obviously. But she comes across as really well too. I loved her.
I really came out of it liking Victoria more, which is funny because some of the things in there don't paint her in a great light, right? Like there was definitely that sort of there was that one World Cup where, like, from the footage you saw, it really looked a lot like she was cheering for him to lose so that he could come and like hang out with her in New York. Like it really looked like she was not happy when they won. But I still came out of it liking her more because she just felt very real. She felt very human. Like, with all the sort of, with all the, the selfishness that can include, she just came across very like as a normal person in a strange way.
Also, I like that he owns up to being selfish. Like it almost makes him more endearing. Like he's like, and then she's like, like now you're passing on the baton. He's like, I don't want to pass on the baton. And then it's like, it was really funny. And he was like, and then I decided to be selfish and start into Miami. And I was like, good on you, kid. Yeah. I love
even the Major League Soccer chapter was all quite interesting, I thought. Like seeing like quite how angry they were with him at Galaxy and like seeing Landon Donovan's feeling about it. I thought that was fascinating.
I don't remember that at all, any feud there.
I don't remember that either.
And they also didn't mention, I'm pretty sure they didn't mention that he actually did a second stint on loan at Milan a year later.
That's what I mean. They didn't mention that. I was like, the whole time I was watching this, I was like, was it one stint at Milan? Because I remember it being...
It was a second at the beginning, I think, of 2000 I think he did 2000, was it 9 and 10? And because Capello got him that gig, I suppose. And it was at the start, it was at the second stint.
Yeah, it was too.
He did his Achilles. I remember, I can picture it now. They didn't show it, but he was walking backwards. And his Achilles just blew out, and that was the end of his chance of going to the 2010 World Cup.
Yeah, against Chievo.
But they loved him at Milan, and he was really good at Milan. I remember he was excellent there. I think he loved it there.
Yeah, well, it was interesting. He clearly wanted to go and make it permanent, didn't he? Like watching that back, it was like, yeah, okay, he wanted to.
But then when he did pull his head in about LA, he really did well at LA. I mean, it's America, right? It was especially it was back then.
Also, when he's...
Oh, my God, some of the footage of that was incredible. Like, some of the bad American football was really
and the look on his face.
When he was like plumbers and pool, like... But what are we expecting from guys where he was saying cleaning the pool? Like, I can't believe that, when people were like, oh, my God, like, as in a friend of mine was getting really, really upset about this whole, like, Saudi Arabia being better than the French league. Yeah. And I was like, all right, but do you think it's better than MLS? And then he's like, of course not. MLS is just full of athletes. It's full of, like, top-level athletes. They may not be good at football, but they're top-level athletes. And then this documentary came along, and he's like, I didn't realize this.
MLS is very different now to what it was then. It's very different now to what it was then. It takes time, but it is very... I mean, not that it's suddenly great, but it's very different to what it was then.
But also, I thought it was really funny when he was like, I realized that for Landon Donovan, this was his Manchester United. I was like, hello, Galaxy.
This startup franchise.
It was his Manchester United. I was like, yeah. Because, I don't know why I thought it was really funny, but it wasn't. Yeah, it was. I wish there was more of it because there was so much I would have liked him to have gone into, but...
It was a really well done documentary and like a genuinely incredible cast of guests. Like they got so many voices in from all through his career, like really interesting people
like Simeone
to hear from. I thought it was really well done. Simeone was great, wasn't he?
That was it.
It could have been longer. Like it could have been double the length.
Yeah.
If you think of Michael Jordan's The Last Dance, which was brilliant.
Yeah, but Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan.
It could have been as long as that because I reckon the content was there.
And the people were there. If all of these people had agreed to an interview.
You say that, Mina, about Michael Jordan. But like Beckham was Beckham was globally probably about as big as Michael Jordan, wasn't he? And he didn't win as much, but
I think Beckham is the first.
He still won the treble.
I think Beckham changed football in the sense that back then they were footballers, sportsmen, and then they were celebrities. He was the first to cross over the two, right? So he was the first Galactico of the world, not just Real. He was a Galactico in every sense. But I think in terms of like the best ever player, probably not. Like in Michael Jordan will forever be remembered as the best ever player in basketball, right?
Yeah. Two different things. Like one's their
exactly. But one is culturally the best we've ever, like perhaps culturally Beckham transcended everything, but maybe as a football player, not necessarily.
Did Maradona or even Pele, because he played in America for a time, have that kind of effect?
No, I don't think anyone had the effect of Beckham. I personally don't think anyone had the effect. And you married a superstar back then.
Probably the closest anyone's come is Messi now.
He had the pop star wife as well, so that was...
it was that, right? Because even Messi has married a girl that he knew from Rosario. Like, it's like none of them have... Like, maybe if Ronaldo had married Irina Shayk and then they did a documentary about her, like, modelling, then sure. But, like, Beckham's the only one who had that.
There was that anecdote, wasn't there, about, like... going to the party at his house and there being like, Stevie Wonder playing the piano and Tom Cruise there. And you're like, that doesn't happen to anyone.
Exactly. And they're all asking him to like hang out. Do you know what I mean? It's not like he's like, chasing it. They're just all coming to him. He was Beckham. Like he was like, I used to know him mostly because I loved the Spice Girls as a kid. It wasn't like I was watching Manchester United in my spare time, So it's amazing.
Oh my God, those pictures of their wedding as well. Incredible. The purple was incredible.
I mean, he brought a lot of this shit on himself with the sarong.
He did bring
but that's what made him. But that's what made him. If he was just wearing regular stuff, it wouldn't have been fun. I love that he was crazy like that.
What about as a footballer? Because I've noticed there's been a lot of talk after this series. Was he that great as a footballer? My answer is yes, he was fucking brilliant. I loved him as a footballer. What do you guys reckon?
For a while, I don't know.
I think I really struggle with the question because I think I'm conscious of what age I was when he was at his peak and how I watched football when he was at his peak, which is different to how I watch football now. Like I watch football now in a very different way to how I did when I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, I was an Arsenal fan. He was the enemy. And my perception at the time was always that there were other United players who I thought were better. I thought Roy Keane was more important. I thought Paul Scholes was more important. But I don't know if it's true. I don't know if that's like partly what I wanted to tell myself as well, because sometimes, I'm certain I fell into that feeling of, oh, he's more of a celebrity than a footballer. And again, my perspective on that would not have been based on watching 90 minutes of Manchester United every week. It would have been based on watching them on Match of the Day, watching them when they played Arsenal, and then reading what I read in the newspapers.
I think what made him so good, like, I think he was very good, but I don't know if he's like, I wouldn't say he was top 3 of Manchester United, because I agree. Like, as in what was so impressive about that 99 victory against Bayern was that final didn't have Roy Keane and Scholes, and they won. And I feel like that never gets mentioned when we talk about Manchester City winning the treble. 2
goals from his 2 corners.
Yeah. And it's so important to note, like when people are like, oh no, the City side is so amazing. I'm like, look at what they were missing. And this is how good United were in 99. Like they had it. They just had it. And it was this side that just had talent everywhere. But yes, Beckham was very special, but because he was always surrounded by very special players, it was hard to really define how special he was, like Ian Robben and Ribéry. Do you remember Bayern? It's like, who would win the Ballon d'Or? They're all so good.
Max, the one to watch. For epic original series. Blockbuster movies.
Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Ken!
Plus,
we have breaking news.
24/7 live streaming news with CNN Max. And live sports with hundreds of games from the NBA, MLB, NHL, NCAA Men's March Madness, and U.S. National Soccer. All included for a limited time with Bleacher Report Sports add-on. After the promo period, add Bleacher Report Sports starting at $9.99 a month. Not all titles currently available.
Day 4 of my exclusively adult Virgin voyage. I've come to discover a new version of me. One that prefers relaxing on my private balcony hammock without a coworker in sight. Instead of staring at them on a video call from home. Much prefer.
Come set sail on an award-winning adult Sony voyage.
To learn more, visit virginvoyages.com or contact your travel advisor today. Now we're voyaging.
This episode is brought to you by L'Oréal Paris Skincare. Get brighter, more hydrated skin with L'Oréal Paris 12% pure vitamin C and hyaluronic acid plumping serum. Vitamin C makes skin look up to 70% brighter and makes pores less visible by 59%, while hyaluronic acid leaves your skin plumper, more hydrated, and visibly reduces wrinkles. Use this skin layering duo every morning and night for best results. Learn more at l'orealparisusa.com.
Like it was that year where they didn't know who to give when they won the treble. It was like, who do we give the Ballon d'Or to? Because there wasn't a special guy, you know? And I feel like but in Madrid, I don't think he was that great.
I think there's also like an element to which, like, just more perspective, more years watching football. Like, I think oddly, like, I'm willing to give more weight to the importance of those set pieces than when I was younger. I think when I was younger, sometimes I dismiss it and be like, oh, he's just good at set pieces. But as you get older, you're like, well, that's actually really important.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely important.
Still, even now, so many top teams don't have that reliable delivery.
Yep.
It's meaningful.
Also, he was clutch. He came through in the big moments. Like that's the kind of guy that you want, right? The one where the pressure's on and the madness is on, and he was mentally strong. Like, as in, like, you know, he had, as soon as he broke free from those, like the 98, like missing, like the whole thing with Simeone, and then they stood by him, which was really nice of Alex Ferguson and everyone. But then it's like he would just rise to the occasion all the time, and he never ever felt like he had lost or gave up, and that was just. I don't know. That's what I think what made him special was he was a clutch player.
I always thought, because I used to play, when I used to play, I would play mainly on the left of midfield or the right of midfield. I could play either. And I really prided myself on getting really good crosses in or corners. I'd be hard on myself if I missed my target. And you watch Serie A, watch any league. There's so many crosses that come in and they're nowhere. It's like they're not aiming, right? And I always thought
because you're just watching Kostic.
And I always thought that Beckham, maybe in the history of the game, is the best crosser of the ball I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like he would hit a 5-cent piece from the other side of the pitch, and I loved that about him. And I would play thinking I've got to do that. I've got to maybe not have him in mind, but I would have that kind of attitude. I've got to hit my target. I've got to put it on my striker's head. If I don't, I've got to practice or I'll be really down on myself. And I don't see that from professional players these days. It really annoys me.
No. I do think his family had a great hand in making him the guy that he is today, you know, albeit with a little bit of tough love.
It's really hard, that, isn't it? Because his dad obviously was mean. And is that okay because he was successful?
Yeah, because the women who watch the documentary, my friends who are not people who like watch football all the time, I guess they were like, his father was traumatic, like this is unacceptable. And I was like, it's kind of like Serena and Venus's father. You know, I feel like Jos Verstappen is much worse for like Max Verstappen in Formula One. I feel like a lot of them are like this, and it does produce results. It's just not very nice, you know?
But it's also, we see the ones where it produces results. There's countless families where dad would have behaved like that and the kid wasn't good enough. And then what does that leave?
Exactly. It seems like if the father was, you know, a kind of, you know, let it be soft type of father, you wouldn't have heard that. You wouldn't have had the result. You wouldn't have had the star. So it's a bit of a catch-22. Do you want to be the perfect father or do you want to create the perfect sportsman?
Yeah.
But do you think that he had the intent to create the perfect sportsman? I don't know whether, I feel like, you know, when you watch the tennis, I feel like it was different with Serena and Venus's dad. It was like he was intent on making them like global superstars. I don't feel like Beckham's father was like that. I feel like he was just trying to make him a good player, and sort of what happened afterwards happened, you know?
We should probably make a Serie A podcast at some point, guys. We've been talking about this for a while, but it's interesting conversation.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of statistics, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and an enormous selection of players and stat options are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million football fans who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/get100 and use code GET100. That's code GET100 at prizepicks.com/get100 for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.